So welcome you all to the Total Care webinar for Google Cloud Connect. This is Michelle Taylor, and I am presenting today with Brian Berchanowski and Matt McLaughlin. Google Cloud Connect is a new product that Google has released to assist with a collaboration using your familiar Microsoft Office interface. And because it is a collaboration tool, today there are going to be 3 of us who are going to be joining efforts in demonstrating how that collaboration appears for you all. Before we begin, I do want to talk a little bit about the GoToWebinar instructions. So you all have the GoToWebinar interface, and you are logged in as an attendee. This is a live webinar, and we really do want to encourage some interaction from the audience. If you do have questions, you have 2 ways that you can interact. By default, you are on mute right now. But if you do want to participate, you are able to participate using a microphone and speakers. If you don't have microphone and speakers available to you, then you can select the Use Telephone icon, and you'll be provided a telephone number to call in. If you do want to participate, you'll have the Raise Your Hand icon over here to the left. And if you, during the presentation, do have questions and you need clarification, feel free to raise your hand, and we're all going to be monitoring that panel to have you join us. Or you can enter questions into the questions log. We'll be answering those, typing those answers back to you, but then also we'll be answering them out loud for everyone to benefit. When we get to the end of the session, we are going to have an opportunity for questions and answers at the end as well. So please feel free to participate during or at the end. We want to talk a little bit about Dido, and how Dido can help your business use Google Apps more effectively. Google is the product company, and Google has brought to you Google Apps as well as additional add-on tools like the Google Cloud Connect that we're going to be discussing today. Dido is a company that provides the value-added services around those Google Apps. So if you are interested in any training, communications, or deployment planning, or project management, data migration, or legacy system integration, or any custom app development, as well as total care support, we encourage you to contact us if you're interested in any of those services. Those could be for the Cloud Connect that we're discussing today, or for any other Google Apps projects that you might be working on. For today, the agenda, we want to take a look at what is Google Cloud Connect and how Google Cloud Connect can help you. Google Cloud Connect for Microsoft Office is a new product recently released, and we're very excited to be one of the partners able to bring this information to you. Just released within this last month, so we want to offer you an opportunity to learn more about this Microsoft Office Google Cloud Connect. What it allows you to do is to collaboratively work within the familiar Microsoft Office interface, but with the power of Google Docs, and you're able to share and back up and simultaneously edit your Word, PowerPoint, and Excel document. So how can Cloud Connect help you? I can give you the brief description, but I think as we go through the demonstration, you're going to hear a lot of ways that Google Cloud Connect can help you, but primarily there is a difference, and we're going to look at the contrast between sending information as attachments versus sharing information. If you currently are a Google Docs user, you're familiar with the sharing. However, if you are not familiar with Google Docs, this might be a new experience for you. So we're going to demonstrate how sharing can really speed up the efficiency of communication within your organization. By the end of the day, we are going to ask you a few questions throughout, but we also want to be able to provide you with some information. So we're going to provide you with an email that's going to both survey your experience today and find out what information you would like to receive additionally. And we're going to also supply you with the download location so that you're able to download Google Cloud Connect. And that would be for existing Google Apps customers, as well as the Google Cloud Connect support. And if you're not an existing Google Apps customer, we do have option for the 90-day app experience program that you might be interested in so that you can demo the Google Cloud Connect. And we'll come back to that a little bit at the end. So before we move over to the demonstration, I did actually have a poll that I just wanted to kind of get a feel for who's in the audience and just kind of get a sense of what types of tools you all might be familiar with using. So actually, Brian, if you want to go ahead and take this screen for the demonstration purposes, and then before you begin, I'll go ahead and launch that poll.
Yeah,
and try and get a sense of the type of audience that we have today.
Sure. Okay, I have the screen now, Michelle. Go ahead with the poll whenever you're ready.
Okay, and so this is the first question that we wanted to ask is, which method does your organization currently use for collaboration? So if you all want to take a moment just to kind of vote here and let us know, are you working with primarily sending attachments? Are you using Google Docs? Or do you have a combination of both? So how does your organization currently collaborate with coworkers? And I have about 80% of you are voted now. So take another couple of seconds before we show the final results. All right, thank you very much. So what we have are the primarily, we are either using attachments or a combination of attachments and Google Docs. So that's good to know. 11% of you primarily using Google Docs. So as I mentioned, the sharing feature, the sharing concept isn't going to be a new one for anyone that's using Google Docs. So those of you using the combination or Google Docs, this is going to be a familiar concept. But we will show kind of how it looks when you did send attachments and then how this would work a little differently. So I want to thank everyone for participating in that poll, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Brian, who's going to show those similarities and differences.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Okay, so we're going to start actually by comparing and contrasting the traditional method of collaborating on a document with Google Cloud Connect. So the traditional method was to create a document in Microsoft Word, and then you would attach it to an email and distribute it by email, or maybe even with a physical copy. But for our purposes, we're going to show you the email method. So we're going to do a quick demonstration of the traditional method, then I'm going to show you how to get Cloud Connect, and then we're actually going to demonstrate using Cloud Connect so you can compare that with the traditional way of sharing. And then I'm going to give you guys an overview of the Cloud Connect universal toolbar that you'll see in Microsoft Word. So you're actually going to learn a lot today about Cloud Connect. So let's get started. Now you can see I have my Gmail account open. So for purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to be using Gmail. But I want to note that you could potentially do this, collaboration with another email system. So what I'm going to do is I have created a document in Microsoft Word that I wish to share with Matt and Michelle. So I'm going to compose a message, and I'm going to add them in. So I've titled it Cloud Connect. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach my document. So I have a Word document here. I'm going to stick it in the email, and I'm going to send that out. So I've sent out the message to them. Now, you all know from working in an office environment that, when you send out a document for someone else to view or revise, it could be anywhere from minutes to hours to days before they actually send you back their version. So for purposes of time, I have two messages here already in my inbox, and you can see the messages here from Michelle and Matt. And they have they've reviewed the document that I've sent out, and they've sent me back an email with their own revision. So what I would need to do in the traditional manner would be to download their attachment that they've sent me and open that in Word And you can see I'm using Chrome here, so I just clicked here, it opened up Word, and so now I have their version of the document. And so what I would have to do right now, I'm essentially working with 3 documents. So I have my original document, I've got Matt's document, and I've got Michelle's document. So I would have to compile all 3 of these into my document and then redistribute that, attach that to an email, and send it back out. So what Cloud Connect allows you to do is to collaborate on the same document. So without creating different versions of a document, you can all collaborate. And that way you can also ensure that everyone has the most up-to-date version of a particular document. So what I'm going to do now, so you can clearly see that the old way it worked, right? But what Google said was there's probably a better way to do this, so they've come up with Cloud Connect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to get Cloud Connect. It's actually very simple. So I have this page readily available here. And we're actually going to be sending you out this web address and the information we're going to be sending as a follow-up. But you can see it's just tools.google.com. And actually, if you do a Google search for Google Cloud Connect, I believe it's the first result that you get other than any sponsored links that come up. But you can see on this page, it's very simple. You have a button here, download Google Cloud Connect. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And then it's going to pull up the terms and conditions, so I simply have to agree to that and click Accept and Install. And I get my little Windows 7 message there. And so it's going to take a few moments to download and install, but overall it's a very easy installation.
And Brian, I also wanted to point out to everyone that the Google Cloud Connect works for your Microsoft Office version, which you already have. So 2003, 2007, 2010, the Google Cloud Connect is going to work for you. You might currently have some issues when you send and receive attachments between different versions. Someone's using 2003, someone is using 2010, and there's a conversion process where you have to download and change it to your newest version for the compatibility. And Cloud Connect helps to address that issue as well, because your documents are able to sync across different versions.
Right, and that's an excellent point, Michelle. I'm sure we've all experienced the frustration of, say, using Microsoft Word 2003 and receiving a Word 2007 document and not being able to open it. So that's definitely one thing that Cloud Connect does for you, is automatically converts that into a format you can view. So you don't have to worry about saving your document in a version compatible with the newer Microsoft, or newer or older versions of Microsoft Word, depending on which version you're using. So you can see now it's downloaded, and I get this message informing me that it's actually installed. So it's very, very simple. So you have this check mark here, and I'm going to click Close. And what I'm going to do now is just proceed to open Word. And you can see that now in my Microsoft Word I have this add-on. There's a Google Cloud Connect toolbar that's appeared in my Microsoft Word. So in order to start using Cloud Connect, we have to begin by clicking the Login button right here. And it's going to ask you to approve access to your Google account. So you have to click Grant Access. And I just want to point out that it actually skipped a step for me because I had already previously entered my Gmail address and my password. One additional step that you would have to do if it's the first time you've used Cloud Connect is that it's going to ask you to enter your Gmail address and your password, and then you'll have to grant access, and then you would see this screen. So on this screen here, you can see it's showing me the account that I'm signed in under, and it's asking me to choose a default synchronization setting. So I have 2 choices. I have automatic and I have manual. So if I choose automatic, what's going to happen is that every time I save the document or someone else makes a change and saves the document on their end, it's automatically going to sync that document and update it in my Microsoft Word. If I select manual, it's only going to synchronize it when I click the sync button, and I'll show you where that is in a minute. And a reason that you might want to use manual is, say you don't want your document continuously or constantly modified by other people. So if other people are working on it at the same time, or you don't want to share your version of the document until you're done editing it, then you can select manual, and it will only update when you click sync. So for purposes of this demonstration, though, I'm gonna go with the default setting, which is automatic. So I'm gonna go ahead and click OK. So now we can see some different options have appeared here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a document, and then I'm gonna upload it. I'm gonna sync that document. So actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open this sample document that I've created. So all you have to do to get started is say I've composed this document and now I want to share it with Matt and Michelle. So the first thing I have to do is actually sync the document with my Google Docs. So I'll click sync where I have this up arrow here. And it says preparing to sync, syncing. You see the progress bar went across there. And so now it's assigned a URL to this document. So it's very similar to a Google Doc where you have a URL which enables you to share the document with others. So if I want to share it with some specific people, note here that on the right-hand side of this universal navigation bar, there's a share button. So I'm going to click on the share button. And you can see that right now it's showing that I am the only owner of the document and no one else has shared on it. So in order to add other individuals, I would simply go down here, and you can enter their email address. So in this case, it's going to be a bit easier because it's just pulling contacts that I already have in my Gmail. So I'm going to share it with Michelle and Matt. And note here that you have a selection where you can choose whether they will be an editor of the document or whether they will only be able to view the document. So for purposes of our demonstration, they're going to be editors. And another thing I want to point out is that you can actually share it with a group. So if you have a group set up, like a distribution list, you can type in the name or the address of that group, and then it will therefore distribute the link for the document to everyone in that group. So a very easy way to collaborate with a large number of people. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click the share button. And so what's going to happen is Matt and Michelle are each going to receive an email, and in that email there's going to be a link for them to open the document. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to turn the presentation over to Matt McLaughlin. So he's going to take control of the screen, and he's going to show you guys from his end what it looks like as a recipient of one of these emails and how he would open that email and download the file so that he can begin editing it in Word. So Matt, go ahead and take it away.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Brian. So now that we can see once Brian has actually shared the document with myself, you'll see that the email has come through, and it came through at 1:19 p.m. And as you can see here, it does come from Brian Berchanowski, and the title is Google Cloud Connect Sample. So all I have to do is simply click on that email, and what I'm going to notice when I first open the email is something very similar to what a Google Doc looks like shared to you. It actually looks very much the same. So it looks like somebody had shared a Google Doc, but you're going to see when you click on the Google Cloud Connect sample that it opens up within Google Docs, but it is a Word file here. So it actually doesn't open up the document itself. It gives you a preview of what the document looks like here. You have the ability to share the document with others if you'd like, and Brian just demonstrated the sharing settings that are available to you, and you can also access them from where you are located now. But what I want to do to actually begin working on this document is simply click Download here. And I've clicked Download, and what you're going to see here is the list of the documents that I've previously downloaded as well, the most recent one being on the left-hand side here due to the download feature in Google Chrome. So all I have to do is simply click on this, the most recent one, and it opens for me in Microsoft Word. Now here I can see what Brian has shared with me, and if I wanted to make any adjustments to this document, I could simply add the information that I would like to add to the document here, which is right there. And now I want to go ahead and show it to Brian here. So I'm going to click Sync. And I am then prompted with this screen here. Now what this means is because this is the first time that I'm actually syncing this document. So it's asking me where I want to sync the document and how I want to sync the document. So this is as you can read here. So this is the first time Google Cloud Connect has tried to sync this document from this computer with the following document on Google Docs. So there is a document on Google Docs, and you notice that because it also provides you with a URL here. But this is what I actually want to select. How are you trying to sync this document? Version 2 of the document linked above. So this is the second time the version this document will have been worked on and then synced, so it's definitely version 2. You do not want to start a new version, which is a completely new document, because then you will be the only person with that document and nobody else will be able to see the changes. So what you want to select is the most recent version of the document, version 2, and it could be version 3 or 4 as well. So depending on how many times it has been synced, and you can simply click on this. Okay, so now I have now synced it with the cloud. And Brian, if you want to go ahead and take the screen back, you'll be able to demonstrate what it looks like on your end once I have worked and synced this up from Microsoft Word using Google Apps. So.
Great, thank you very much, Matt. So we're now viewing my screen, we're viewing my Microsoft Word, and you can actually see that it has successfully synced with Matt's version. So you can see that his edit has been added here onto my Microsoft Word, and it'll show, you'll be able to see that, it'll actually say that it's updating, and then the new addition that Matt has made to the document will automatically appear on my screen. So as Matt and Michelle make any changes, we'll be able to note the changes appearing as we proceed. So what I'm going to do now is, we've demonstrated this a little bit, and I'm going to go over some of the different settings and features on the toolbar. And as Matt and Michelle make any changes, I'll make note of that as well. So we're going to start here on the left-hand side. And you can see that we have this drop down. It says Google Cloud Connect. So if I click on that, and you can actually see one of them is making a change now. Let me just draw your attention to this. It says preparing to sync, retrieving changes, and now we have revision history has appeared down here at the bottom, a change that's been made. And I'll show you in a moment how to see actually who has made each change and how to revert the document back to a previous version. But going back to this Cloud Connect bar, we have Google Cloud Connect settings. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. So notice this is very similar to the prompt that we got when we first added Cloud Connect. So there's basically two functions that this provides. First of all, you are able to switch your account or log out. So it's important to note that if you have more than one Gmail account, you want to make sure that you're signed into the correct account. If you are shared on a doc, and say it's shared to my other Gmail account, and I open it with the Brian at Dido LLC. If Brian at Dido LLC is not the one shared on that document, it will give me an error. It'll give me an error over here where it says success. So you'll want to make sure that you're logged in as the correct user. And that's only really going to be an issue if you have multiple Gmail accounts. But just take note of where you can access this. The other thing that you can do on this screen is you can actually change your default synchronization setting, and note that it says for a new document. So what you can do is you can choose automatic or manual as your default, but that's only going to take effect for any new documents you create. And I'll show you in a moment how to actually change the setting for the document that we're working on currently. The other thing that you have access to in this Cloud Connect dropdown is the Help page. And if you open this, you'll note that it's going to take you to Google's help page for Google Cloud Connect. So everything is arranged by topic here very neatly, and there are even some videos embedded that you can view. So this is actually a very, very good resource, especially if you have questions about how to install or use Cloud Connect. They also touch on system requirements and supported file types, etc. So a very useful resource. Moving over to the right, you can see that we have the URL that's been assigned to this document, and note that we have this drop down here that looks like a little miniature document symbol. And if I click on this, I have some other options. I have the option to copy the document link. So if I want to simply share the link with someone, I could do that. And you could, if you made the document public, you could share the link and anyone would essentially be able to view it. as opposed to sharing it with very specific individuals or groups as I demonstrated. You also have the ability to see revision history. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And so we have our revision history here. You can see that we're on the 3rd revision of the document, and it'll tell us exactly who has revised the document. So we have revision 1 by me, revision 2 by Matt, and revision 3 by Michelle, which is this paragraph here that's appeared. And note that if I click, say, on revision 2, it's going to show me a preview of the document as it appeared in revision 2. So note that Michelle's paragraph is no longer appearing there. I also have the ability to click Make This the Latest Version. So if I don't like the change that Michelle has made to my document, I can revert back to that revision by clicking this button, Make This the Latest Version. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. The other thing that you have the ability to see some of the embedded information that ties it to Google Docs by clicking on this link here, See Embedded Google Information. The other thing that you can do that's rather important is you can select the sync mode for this document. So if you remember a few moments ago, I had stated that if you go to the Cloud Connect dropdown and play with your synchronization settings here, it's only going to work on a new document. Well, if you want to change your settings for this document, we would go to this drop-down, go to sync mode for this document, and then you can select between automatic and manual. So let's see what happens. I'm actually going to demonstrate what happens if I switch it to manual. So now you see that this little button here has changed. So this check mark indicates that I have the most recent version of the document. So let's look and see what happens if I make a change to the document and then save it. So I've made a change to the document. I'm going to save that change. So now you can see that since I've saved it, it's now telling me that a sync is required. And this has changed to an up arrow indicating that I need to upload my changes to the cloud. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And you can see it syncing with Google Docs, and now it says synchronize. So this indicates that I have the most recent version. I'm viewing the most up-to-date version of the document, and others will have the most recent version as well. And if Matt or Michelle makes a change to the document at this point, it's going to indicate that I need to download those changes. So you'll see a down arrow here for sync. The other thing that you may see, you could potentially see something that says sync state unknown. And that would usually indicate that you're not connected to the internet, so it's unable to determine whether or not you're viewing the most up-to-date version of the document. And one thing about Cloud Connect that's great is that it doesn't change the way Microsoft Word functions. So you absolutely do not have to be connected to the internet to create your document, to edit your document. So you can work offline as much as you want, and then as soon as you're back online, you can simply synchronize it, and it will update the document across the board for everyone. So it's a very powerful tool. It gives you the flexibility to work online and offline. So you can leverage one of the advantages of Microsoft Word as opposed to Google Docs.
And Brian, I just did want to point out, in terms of changing it between the automatic and the manual, clearly with the automatic, every time you make a change, everyone will be informed. And every time others make a change, you will be informed. And that is beneficial to make sure that you always have the most up-to-date version. But selecting only sync at manual could be very helpful if you need to make changes but gather information from another location. Perhaps you need to consult with individuals first, and you don't want to have your unedited version synced every time that you make a change. So that would be a reason for you to consider moving over to the manual so that you only sync the edited and your final edits that you wanted to have synced to everyone else's document. So those are two ways to consider how you want this to sync. But I'm very glad that you pointed out the offline ability, because I know that was someone's question, that while it does leverage Google Docs, it also does have the Word platform, so you can make these changes, and next time you are available and connected, you click sync and you will upload and download all of the changes that have been made. So, great.
Exactly. Thank you very much for that input, Michelle. And actually, I don't really have anything else to go over as far as the toolbar. I mean, as you can see, it's pretty easy to use. There are only a few settings that you need to tweak. So really, at this point, unless you have anything else to add about the toolbar, Michelle, I think I can go ahead and hand it back over to you, and you can kind of wrap up the discussion, and then we're going to open it up. We're going to open up the floor to any questions. So,
Before we move over, you know what? I'd like to ask a question of everyone, one more question. Today we only demonstrated Word. Of course, there are many other Office tools that this can incorporate. You're also able to work with Excel and PowerPoint. And we only demonstrated how sync would work within Word, but the tool looks very similar whenever you're opening up one of the others. So I'm just curious from the audience, for which Office tool are you most likely planning to utilize Google Cloud Connect? So if you did decide that you were going to utilize Google Cloud Connect, are you most likely to use this for Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or are you undecided? So I have several people, about 40% of you have voted, so wait just a few more minutes. All right, I have about 85% of you voted, so a couple more votes, and then we'll go ahead and close out the poll. Okay, so I'm going to share with you the results, and it turns out that over half of you are planning on using this for Microsoft Excel, and that's actually not a surprise to me. I know that many of you have the Excel documents that you use, which are heavily formatted, and currently there isn't a great way to share the formatting that's within Excel. So not a surprise that many of you are going to be using this for Excel, and we think that this is a great option for that, a workaround for some of the limitations with spreadsheets. Also good to see that many of you are working on, just doing the general collaboration with Word. So not too many that are undecided yet, but I think that not surprised, like I said, that Excel is the primary tool that you plan on using this for.
right, and I think that's actually another great point, Michelle, is that with Excel, one of the advantages that you have, I know a lot of you have a business need for spreadsheets that are constantly updated, and one of the great things that you can do with Cloud Connect is make sure that everyone has the most up-to-date version of the document. So probably even more so than Word, it's useful for Excel in that you're not going to have to worry about someone working off an obsolete version of a particular spreadsheet. So as different employees go in and update the spreadsheets with, say sales numbers or order numbers, what have you, you can be sure that everyone has the most recent version. No more dating it, no more emailing it out daily. It's a very, very powerful tool for keeping up to date on any spreadsheets that you might have in Excel. So I think at this point, Michelle has some closing remarks, and then we're going to open it up to questions.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, so back to what we were talking about, we looked at what Google Cloud Connect can do, and there are two things I want to point out. One is that we are demonstrating what's available for a current Google Apps customer, and then also I want to talk about the 90-day App Experience program available for non-Google Apps customers. So in general, how does Google create this product, right? How does this work? In the very simple, non-technical explanation, you notice that you have to have a Google Apps account, and it has to have Google Docs enabled. And when you install the tool, what the tool does is it takes that old method of upload an attachment, recipient download attachment. Then the recipient uploads the attachment, and again, it's downloaded. This Microsoft Office Google Cloud Connect tool automates that process. So you are logged in, it is linked to your Google Docs, and when you make edits, it automates that upload and download process. So you're uploading to the cloud, and then the other individual, when they click sync, it's an automatic download. So you're seeing the changes occur, and it's replacing the document for you, where previously you would have had to make a determination which documents do you want to replace. So this gives you the most recent version. Of course, you saw you can go back to the revision history and you can always find an older version. But it just automates that whole process of uploading and downloading. And that's a little bit different than the Google Docs sharing. Google Docs sharing, you would see individuals having the real-time, same-time collaboration where they were in the document at the same time. And that can be very beneficial. This is a slightly different product where it's automating the upload and the download so that everyone has the most recent version, but not necessarily seeing those changes made at the same time. So we hope through today's demonstration we're a little able to show you an older method, a traditional method of attachments, and show some similarities and differences between the Cloud Connect tool and Docs as well. And in order to access, you have to have a Gmail account. You have to have Docs available to you, that cloud location, for this sync to work. So one of the links we're going to provide you is how to download, and if you're a current Google Apps customer, that will be a very simple download that we demonstrated today. If you or anyone that you know, if you know of another organization and you'd like to refer them over to this webinar for viewing, we'll talk a little bit about the 90-day App Experience program, and that's just a program to try out this collaboration method. It's a flat fee, but as everyone in the organization gets Google Docs, Sites, Cloud Connect, forms, presentations, spreadsheets. So everything that you get out of Google Docs, you can purchase as a 90-day app experience to see if Google Cloud Connect is good for your organization. So there is an opportunity for anyone that is not a current customer to try this out and then determine if you want to move over to Google Apps completely or continue to work with just the collaboration portion. And as I mentioned, if anyone was interested in finding out more information, you can always contact us at training@ditoweb.com. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have regarding Google Cloud Connect. If you wanted to review this information, this webinar is going to be posted on our YouTube channel, which is /Dito LLC. And if you did want to follow us, this is a new product release, and as new releases come available, we try and provide that information to you as soon as possible. And for the most up-to-date information, you might want to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or go to our Dito blog. In terms of the presentation, I think we gave a pretty good overview of how this tool can work, and I think that you may be able to see now some of the benefits and how you can speed up the efficiency of collaboration using the power of Google Docs supported by the Microsoft Office platform and familiar interface. So I want to open it up now to see if there are any questions. If you do have questions, you can raise your hand using the raise your hand icon. Or you can type your questions into the questions panel. And I know that as we have been going through the presentation, I think a few people have been answering questions. I do have a few hands raised. So I'm going to call on a couple of you that I see. So it looks like Chuck Evans, I have you unmuted now. So if you're able to hear me, we're able to hear you if you want to answer your question, ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. My question was, we are currently using Simplicity as a way to upload and share docs. Was wondering if this could be set up to be organized in the same format.
So I'm not sure if you mean organized in the same format. You're currently using Microsoft Office.
Correct. We're typically, a lot of the stuff that we share are Excel docs, and what we end up doing is kind of setting up files that are constantly updated and between a few people. And what I was wondering is if there's a simple way just to simply use Cloud Connect to upload recent changes so people could go into the docs file and pull those out and use them, and knowing that they have the most current version.
Okay. So I think what you're using, the Simplicity, is a very similar product in that it does upload information to the cloud, and it is storing it in a cloud environment, and then you're able to access from that environment. So this is a very similar product. What you have is what you would be gaining by using this product over Simplicity is the power of Google and their server uptime, as well as their, the reliability and the increased security that you get with the Google product.
Okay.
So the changeover may not appear very different on your end in terms of the user experience.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I have another question, Arnold Pereira. I'm going to unmute you now, and if you can hear me, we're able to hear you. You want to ask your question?
Yes. The question is, it seems like it's very simple to start uploading files to the Google Docs cloud. However, if you already have a collection of large files, what's the best way to access those?
And are those files, you're saying these are Microsoft Office files located on your hard drive, for example?
No, on the cloud already. They're already on the cloud. It seems like files that are already on my hard drive are easily uploadable. Just open them and they sync and they'll move to the cloud. However, if you already have a large collection of files in the cloud, what's the best way to access it? I don't want to download one by one.
And can I ask, just to help me to understand what your use case would be? Are you trying to share this information with someone that is not currently sharing in Google Docs, and you just prefer to have it in, or do you need to have the functionality of your Microsoft Word or Excel?
No, I'm already sharing docs on the cloud with Google Docs. My question is, those files are already uploaded to Google. What's the best way to download them and use them locally with the Word, with MS Word?
Okay, so any file that you have which is a Google Doc, you can either take Word documents, for example, and you can upload them to Google Docs. Also, within your Google Docs, you're able to download, and you would view them and download them as a Word document. So you do.
I understand that, but if I have thousands of files, I don't want to be downloading one by one. Is there a way to bulk load download them and then start using them?
Because you want to have all of them in Word, is that right?
That's right.
Okay, so you would have to try to find, you actually would have to do multiple conversions in order to get the docs that you have, which are in Google Docs, which is a different format than Word. You do have to transfer each one to a Word document in order to work on it within Word. And then I'm not sure from there if you want to use, if you're saying you want to get them into Word because you want to begin using this tool.
Okay, thank you. I think I got the answer.
Okay.
Yeah, we can research that a bit for you, but yeah, I think basically at present you pretty much have to you'd have to download them one by one, but we can research that and get back to you if we may be able to there may be a way to kind of bulk migrate them from your Google Docs to MS Word, but we'll look into that for you.
Thank you, Brian. And I do see that I have another question. One more question, so I'm going to go ahead and answer that one. And I see that Arnold and Chuck, you have your hand raised, and I just wanted to point that out. If you have another question, I'm certainly happy to call on you, but I wasn't certain if you did. So right now I'm going to go to Alexandros, and I will unmute you now. So Alexandros, you are unmuted, and we can hear you. You can hear us. If you want to go ahead and ask your question. So I believe it's Alejandros Bernardes. If you have a question, you want to go ahead and ask your question now. Well, I think I'll come back to you. If you want to type your question into the questions panel, we'll come back. Or if you want to raise your hand again, then we can come back and answer your question. I see that Melissa Prophet also has a question, so I'll go ahead and unmute you. Melissa, you're unmuted if you want to go ahead and ask your question. So Melissa, are you able to hear us? Well, are you there, Melissa? I'll go ahead and, Melissa, if you want to also, you can type your question in the question panel or let us know if your audio begins to work again if you still have a question.
We had a good question from Francia as well. Michelle, who wanted to respond to that. She says, I understand these documents are saved on the cloud or on our Google Apps account. Could they also be saved on a network server or PC?
So Francia, that's a good question. What we're looking at is, as I mentioned, it's automating the upload and download. So you do have your version is your version, and yes, you can save just as you have been saving in the past. You can save your version to your desktop or to a server. However, once you have saved that document, you have made yourself the sole owner, and therefore you wouldn't be getting any of updates where you have shared that information with others. So there is the ability to move the document onto a server, but once you have moved it onto the server and you have saved it off as a separate file, you are taking sole ownership, and anyone that's shared is no longer shared on that. So you're not able to share through your server. I think that answers the question.
Right, and just so when you are like saving the document within Microsoft Word, you're saving it. If you have Cloud Connect, you're saving it to the cloud as well as your desktop. It'll save as a Microsoft Word file as well.
Yeah, so any of the updates may be updated on they'll be updated on the cloud version, but they would not be updated on any version which you've saved.
Right, so the version, in other words, the version that you would have on your, say, your hard drive, you would have to open that in MS Word and then update that from that point. So it's not automatically going to update the files that you have stored. You would have to open the file in Word and then synchronize in order to make sure that you have the most up-to-date version.
So are there any other questions? Let's see, Alejandro's. In case, okay, let's see, I do have a couple of questions here. In case two users, okay, are working on it at the same time and there are simultaneous changes, what happens? That's a very good question. And also if two people, or two people are making changes to the same paragraph, what happens? Yes, so if two people make simultaneous changes or changes of any kind and they try to sync simultaneously, the owner of the document is notified that there were overlapping changes, and they're able to select which changes they want to implement. So we mentioned you can work offline, and then when you come online, you can upload. So it really occurs when you have simultaneous syncing of the document, and it will require that you select one over the other. And this is a difference from the Google Docs live collaboration. Clearly in the Google Docs, when you have two people entering information, they can see one another and where they are typing, so they wouldn't be entering simultaneous edit. That is a limitation when you cannot see the changes someone else has made until syncing. The owner of that document has to determine which set of changes they're going to accept. So it is possible to have simultaneous edits, and if they do not conflict, you'll get both. If they do conflict, you have to choose.
Right, that's right, Michelle. And Google actually, they call that an edit conflict, and there's actually an article on that on the help site. In fact, they even have a brief video that demonstrates that in action. So you definitely have the ability to resolve an edit conflict. So you may want to visit the Google help site by clicking Help there in your Cloud Connect, and you'll be able to see a screenshot of what that looks like.
I do have another question here about security and storing documents to the cloud, especially documents that have confidential information. It's kind of two questions. In terms of security and storing information to the cloud, I'm going to address that one and then also the confidential information portion. Storing information to the cloud feels like a less secure environment. People are very comfortable knowing that what's in front of me, either in front of me physically, or at least I know it's down the hall in a server. And you feel that because the file's location is tangible and touchable in front of you, that it's very safe. When in fact it's very much less secure than if you were to put your documents on a Google server. And the Google servers are not just the location that they're providing for customers. It's the location where they hold their own information. They're highly incentivized to keep their servers safe and secure for several reasons. One, obviously for benefit of business and being able to provide that security claim, but as well for their own personal information and proprietary information that they wouldn't want someone to have access to. So they have individuals working full-time around the clock to ensure security and have updated hardware and have an updated capabilities where you as an individual, me as an individual, my personal login, I may walk away from my computer and it's logged in, and someone really could find the information much more easily. I'm not monitoring my computer 24 hours a day as Google is. So in terms of security, it is a very safe and secure location. Now let's talk about confidential information. That is a different question. There are, and I don't know your certain circumstance, but I do need everyone to consider, if you have confidential information which requires specific federal law requirements, and they do exist, where there are federal laws surrounding what is considered confidential, there are ways to make sure that you meet those the confidentiality requirements, but there are specific avenues that you have to take in order to ensure that you're meeting those federal laws. So if you're just talking about business proprietary information, I think that it is very safe for that type of confidential. You may want to contact us if you're referring to something a little bit more restrictive, having to do with some federal law restrictions, but it is available for both. And I see, let's see, we have a few more questions. One question, is there a way, let's see, if you make, what if you make global format changes? Is there a way to see all documents we've uploaded using the cloud? Okay, so in terms of global format changes, if you were to, I guess I might need to have some clarification on the question, and if Brian or Matt, if you have thoughts around that, in terms of if you were to upload and create all of your documents, the only portion we showed you having to do with global changes had to do with creating a document and whether or not you're going to automatically sync or manually sync all of your documents as a default. So I wasn't sure what the global formatting change was referring to, so if you might be able to type in a clarification about that. We showed you settings for how to sync information as a default, and that's your environment, your global environment of documents. But if you might clarify that one for me, I would love to have a chance to answer. So when, let's see, we have, is there a way to see all the documents? Okay, so if you want to see all the documents you've uploaded using Cloud Connect, like in Docs, these documents are in your Google Docs collection. So you can see the revision history. If you'd like to review all of the revisions, that will show you the revisions, but these documents are actually located in your Docs, which is why you have to have a Google Apps account, or you have to be a part of the Appsperience program in order to have a set of Google Docs accessible to you, and that is where you would see all of your documents.
Right, and I can actually demonstrate that, Michelle, if you'd like me to take control of the presentation briefly.
Okay.
Okay, just give me 1 second. Okay, so you can see here that I've opened up my Google Docs. So these documents that you are making using Cloud Connect, they are uploading to your Google Docs and they are available in Google Docs. But one thing that you can't do is edit them in Google Docs and have that carry over to Cloud Connect. So you can see these Word documents that I have here in my docs, they are all documents I've created in Cloud Connect. And if I click on it to open it, it's going to open it as a Microsoft Word document. So it's not going to open it in a Google Docs form or version that I can edit. Now I can certainly do that. I can go back to my documents and I can go over here to Actions and I can actually make a Google Docs copy and then edit it in Google Docs. But that is then going to break your sync. I mean, what's going to happen is anything that you do in Google Docs. So, for instance, if I made a Google Docs copy of this document, that's not going to carry over to Cloud Connect. So if another individual synchronizes their Cloud Connect, they're not going to see the updates that you made in Google Docs. You really have to use Word on both ends in order to get it to work. But you could certainly take a Word document that you've created using Cloud Connect and turn it into a Google Docs version and then share it that way. But at that point, you're no longer in sync with what you have in Cloud Connect. So hopefully that answered your question. I think that was the question.
Yes, and because they were asking, are the docs versus the Cloud Connect versions, the Word versions, are they unrelated? And yes, if you were to put it into a doc format, then it becomes unrelated. But while it's still listed, you can see here as a Word document, it is your Word document. I did have clarification on in terms of global changes to the document. If you were to change the paragraph style throughout the document, for example, any stylized changes, yes, they do update and edit. So when you sync your document, if it's a Word document, it will, any of the changes, the stylization, paragraph formatting, anything that works within Word is going to be a change that's viewable to others. And if there are any issues with that, definitely it is the intention that all features would work. So if you come across a feature that doesn't work, definitely want you to contact the Google Cloud support that we're going to provide to you to recommend that they have some fixes if you do come across any that don't work. And it does track those changes, so that you would be able to see the multiple versions, and you can see the revision history, so you can go back and determine which, if you did paragraph styling changes, as you've asked in the question, then yes, you could go back and track where those were and then select which version you'd like to use. So I'm kind of looking through, and I believe I've come to the end, and we've jumped around just a bit in some of the questions. I want to make sure that I have answered everyone's questions. So if at this time, if you feel that I haven't, you want to go ahead and enter in your question. If you feel that we didn't fully address anything, we'd be happy to do that now.
Melissa had another question about track changes, and she clarified that track changes are similar to when Word highlights changes made to the document. And I believe that track changes are very similar to revision history, where you're able to see the changes that have been made to the document.
And so, Melissa, I'm not sure if you're asking if the two will work together, but I think Matt already answered that they are very similar features that you would, if you're using the Cloud Connect, you would look up revision history. If you were doing, I think your other version of attachments, then you would use track changes. And additional question was about using Google Chrome. You do not have to use Google Chrome. In order to do this, you do have to have Microsoft Office, and you do have to have Google Docs. And the docs would be through your Google Mail account, or your Google Apps account, or you would contact us to find out about how to get just Google Docs to support your Microsoft Office. So the two things you need is the Microsoft Office and the Google Docs to support the cloud portion.
And Dan actually just posted, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Michelle.
No, go ahead. I was going to answer Dan's question. Feel free.
Yeah, Dan actually just asked if this is going to be available offline, and yes, it's actually going to be uploaded to our YouTube account, so you can definitely go back and view the presentation again.
And everyone that has joined us today, if you do have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us at training@didoweb.com. As Brian mentioned, we are going to be putting this on our YouTube account, which is /Dido LLC, if you wanted to view this presentation. Everyone logged in today using an email, and that's the email where you're going to receive follow-ups after this presentation. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and look forward to you coming our way with questions and letting us know how Cloud Connect is working for you. We would definitely be interested in sharing that information, so if anyone here has some great thoughts of ways that you can utilize this tool, we certainly would like to share that with others, so please feel free to reach out with the good news. And we look forward to seeing you next month, where we're going to be offering additional free webinars as we do every month. Thanks again for everyone for joining us, and we'll talk to everyone soon.